Welcome to Conspiracy Files. I'm your host, Zoe Parker, and in today's episode, we're diving into one of the most chilling and controversial mysteries of all time: demonic possession. For centuries, stories of possession have haunted humanity. Whispers of unseen forces taking hold of the body, twisting the mind, and speaking through unwilling hosts. From ancient scriptures to modern exorcisms caught on tape, the accounts are disturbingly similar. People convulsing, speaking in tongues, exhibiting superhuman strength. But is it real? Are dark entities truly invading the human soul? Or is there a more rational explanation hidden beneath centuries of fear and folklore? Stay tuned. Possession is not a new fear. It is an ancient one, deeply embedded in the fabric of human history. The idea that malevolent entities can invade and control the human body stretches across cultures, civilizations, and religions. It is a belief as old as time itself. In Mesopotamian texts, priests performed elaborate rituals to expel demons believed to cause illness and madness. Ancient Egyptians inscribed spells to ward off dark spirits, while in Hindu traditions, malevolent beings known as bhutas or pishachas were thought to inhabit the living, influencing their behavior. The Greeks and Romans, too, spoke of supernatural afflictions, often associating them with divine punishment or the wrath of vengeful spirits. But it was with the rise of Christianity that the concept of demonic possession took on its most infamous form. Biblical texts describe Jesus expelling demons from the afflicted, encounters that set the precedent for exorcism rites that would be refined over centuries. As Christianity spread across Europe, the Church solidified its role as the ultimate authority on possession, establishing strict guidelines for identifying and combating it. By the Middle Ages, possession had become synonymous with heresy and witchcraft. Accusations of demonic influence fueled inquisitions and witch trials, where the possessed were often subjected to brutal punishments or burned at the stake. Religious leaders held firm in their belief that possession was a tangible threat to the soul, and exorcisms became a sanctioned means of combating Satan's influence on earth. But as science advanced, so did skepticism. The Enlightenment saw the rise of medical explanations for behaviors once attributed to demons, symptoms of what were once considered possessions. Violent fits, altered voices, speaking in tongues, were increasingly linked to conditions like epilepsy, schizophrenia, and dissociative identity disorder. By the 19th and 20th centuries, psychology had largely replaced spiritual intervention in many parts of the world. Yet, despite the march of scientific progress, the fear of possession never truly faded. Cases continued to emerge, defying rational explanation. The Catholic Church, though cautious, never abandoned its belief in possession, keeping its exorcism rites alive even as the modern world turned its gaze elsewhere. Then, in the late 20th century, something changed. The cultural landscape shifted. Reports of possession surged, capturing public imagination in ways unseen since medieval times. Books, news stories, and films thrust exorcism back into the spotlight, forcing even the most hardened skeptics to acknowledge that, real or not, possession was something people still feared. The question remains, is possession an archaic superstition lingering in the modern age, or is it a reality that science has yet to fully grasp? The accounts are chilling. A young woman, once vibrant and full of life, begins speaking in a language she has never studied. Her voice drops to an unnatural growl, eyes rolling back as she convulses violently. A child, barely old enough to read, screams in terror at unseen figures lurking in the dark, his body writhing as if gripped by invisible hands. A man, restrained by his own family, laughs hysterically before falling into an eerie silence, only to whisper secrets no one else should know. These are the cases that have fueled the belief in demonic possession for centuries. The core theory behind possession suggests that an external, malevolent force, often described as a demon, spirit, or entity, enters a person's body and takes control. Those who support this theory argue that possession is not simply a psychological phenomenon, but a literal invasion of the human soul by something beyond our comprehension. The most compelling evidence comes from the testimonies of those who have witnessed these events firsthand. Priests, doctors, and even law enforcement officers have reported encountering individuals whose behavior defied logical explanation. In some cases, victims have demonstrated unnatural strength, resisting multiple people attempting to restrain them. Others have spoken in ancient or unknown languages, displaying knowledge of arcane details they could not possibly have learned. Physical changes are often cited as well. Reports describe possessed individuals contorting their bodies in ways that seem impossible, dislocating joints, bending backward at extreme angles, or moving with an inhuman swiftness. Unexplained marks, scratches, or burns have allegedly appeared on their skin, sometimes forming symbols associated with demonic lore. Witnesses claim that objects move on their own in the presence of the possessed, shadows twist unnaturally, and rooms grow unnervingly cold. Perhaps the strongest argument supporting possession is the apparent success of exorcisms. Religious institutions, particularly the Catholic Church, have documented cases where afflicted individuals have undergone exorcistic rituals and, according to those involved, have been freed from their torment. The rituals themselves vary, but they often involve sacred prayers, the use of holy water, and direct commands for the entity to leave. The accounts of exorcists detail violent reactions, convulsions, screams, guttural growls, as if something inside is fighting to maintain control. And then, suddenly, calm. The struggle ends. The individual, now exhausted and drained, returns to normal. Believers argue that possession follows a pattern, one that has remained eerily consistent across different cultures and religions. The symptoms are always similar, the fear always the same. If possession were purely a product of human imagination, why do these cases persist, unchanged, across thousands of years? Why do those suffering from alleged possession so often describe the same sensations of being watched, manipulated, and controlled? The debate rages on. Are these manifestations truly the work of dark forces preying on the vulnerable, or is there another explanation lurking beneath the surface? But for every compelling account, there are inconsistencies, gaps in the narrative that raise more questions than they answer. If possession is real, why does it seem to manifest primarily in cultures where the belief in demonic influence is strong? Why do documented cases rarely occur in societies that do not subscribe to the concept of possession? Could it be that belief itself plays a role in shaping the experience? There is also the question of physical evidence, or the lack thereof. In an age where nearly everyone carries a high-definition camera in their pocket, why are there so few clear recordings of possession events? Grainy footage, distorted audio, and secondhand testimonies dominate the landscape, leaving skeptics to wonder. If these events are as dramatic and terrifying as described, why hasn't definitive proof surfaced? Medical professionals have pointed out inconsistencies in the symptoms reported across different cases. Some individuals display violent convulsions, while others appear eerily still. Some speak in tongues, while others remain silent, responding only with stares or gestures. The variations in behavior make it difficult to establish a definitive set of criteria for identifying true possession. Could this suggest multiple explanations rather than a single cause? Then, there are the cases where possession-like symptoms seems to vanish without an exorcism. Some individuals recover suddenly, with no religious intervention at all. Others respond to psychiatric treatment, leading some to question whether possession is, in some instances, an extreme manifestation of psychological distress. If a demon had truly taken hold, why would medication or therapy be effective? The Church itself has been cautious in labeling cases as true possession. Before granting approval for an exorcism, the Vatican requires extensive evaluations by medical and psychological professionals to rule out natural explanations. But even with these precautions, how can one be certain that the line between possession and mental illness is being drawn correctly? How many cases throughout history may have been misdiagnosed, either as supernatural when they were medical, or as medical when they were something beyond scientific understanding? There is also the unsettling possibility that some cases are not supernatural or medical, but deliberate fabrications. Some alleged victims have later admitted to faking their symptoms, sometimes for attention, sometimes under the influence of suggestion, and sometimes out of deep-seated religious fear. This raises an uncomfortable question. If even one case is proven fraudulent, how many others could be explained the same way? But perhaps the most haunting question of all is this: if possession is real, then what exactly are these entities? Are they demons in the traditional sense, remnants of ancient evils waiting for an opportunity to manifest? Or could they be something else entirely? Something that doesn't fit into the neat boundaries of religious doctrine or medical science? The unknown lingers, just beyond the edge of explanation, leaving us to wonder whether we are staring into the abyss of the mind or into something far darker. Not everyone is convinced that possession is a supernatural phenomenon. Many experts argue that what appears to be demonic influence is, in reality, the manifestation of psychological and neurological disorders, illnesses that have been misunderstood for centuries. Schizophrenia, dissociative identity disorder, epilepsy, and even extreme cases of sleep paralysis have all been proposed as medical explanations for symptoms commonly associated with possession. Neurologists studying these cases suggest that certain brain abnormalities, particularly in the temporal lobe, can induce hallucinations, seizures, and intense religious experiences. These episodes, they argue, can make individuals feel as if they are being controlled by an external force. In moments of psychological distress, the mind may externalize inner turmoil, creating the illusion of a separate, malevolent entity taking over. Psychologists add another layer to this theory, pointing to the power of suggestion. In deeply religious communities, where belief in demonic possession is strong, individuals experiencing mental illness may interpret their symptoms through a supernatural lens. The phenomenon of mass hysteria has been well documented throughout history, with entire groups of people exhibiting behaviors that mirror those around them. Could it be that cases of possession, especially in highly religious settings, are the result of cultural conditioning rather than actual supernatural interference? Then there's the question of exorcism. Skeptics argue that the perceived success of exorcisms has more to do with psychology than spirituality. The ritual itself, filled with authoritative commands, sacred symbols, and heightened emotional intensity, can act as a form of placebo, convincing the afflicted person that they are being freed. This psychological reinforcement, combined with the immense power of belief, might explain why some individuals experience sudden relief following an exorcism. But not all explanations focus solely on the mind. Some researchers propose that environmental factors could play a role. Exposure to toxic substances, such as carbon monoxide poisoning or certain molds, has been linked to hallucinations, paranoia, and erratic behavior. Could it be that some historic cases of possession were actually the result of environmental contamination, misdiagnosed as supernatural influence? Beyond medical and environmental theories, there are those who suggest a more unconventional explanation, one rooted in the unknown aspects of human consciousness. Some scientists studying altered states of mind theorize that so-called possessions could be a form of dissociation, where the subconscious takes control in ways we do not yet understand. Others point to cases of sleep paralysis, a condition that can induce terrifying waking nightmares in which individuals feel a presence in the room, experience full-body paralysis, and even believe they are being attacked by an invisible force. Despite these alternative explanations, the debate remains unresolved. Skeptics argue that the evidence for possession crumbles under scrutiny, that science offers more logical explanations for behaviors once deemed supernatural. But those who have witnessed these events firsthand, who have seen what they believe to be something unexplainable, maintain that there is more to possession than science can currently grasp. And as long as such cases continue to emerge, the mystery will persist. The belief in demonic possession is not just a matter of individual experience. It touches on broader societal, psychological, and even geopolitical dynamics. To understand why possession continues to captivate people across cultures, we must explore the deeper layers of why it endures in the modern world, despite scientific and rational advancements. On a societal level, belief in possession can serve as a mechanism for dealing with the unexplained. In times of crisis or trauma, individuals and communities often seek meaning in what feels uncontrollable or chaotic. Possession, as a concept, offers a tangible explanation for suffering that might otherwise seem random or senseless. For people in distress, The idea that an external force is the cause of their suffering, whether illness, personal failure, or societal instability, can provide a sense of clarity. The idea of a demon taking hold may be less terrifying than facing the reality of a deeper psychological or social affliction that lacks clear answers. In a world where people frequently feel powerless, belief in possession offers a form of agency, a way to name the problem and confront it with a ritual or a solution. Psychologically, the persistence of the belief in possession may also be tied to the way the human mind grapples with control and identity, the loss of self, whether due to trauma, mental illness, or external manipulation, can trigger a crisis of identity. People who feel that they are no longer in control of their bodies or minds may be more inclined to externalize their struggles by attributing them to an outside force. This provides a framework for understanding and interpreting loss of selfhood, whether it manifests as dissociation, altered states of consciousness, or profound mental distress. In cultures where religious beliefs are deeply ingrained, the idea of possession can be particularly powerful. The battle between good and evil, light and dark, is a central tenet of many religious narratives. In this context, possession is not just an isolated phenomenon. It becomes part of a larger cosmic struggle between forces beyond human understanding. The power of religious authority, whether it's the Catholic Church, shamanic traditions, or other spiritual leaders, reinforces the belief in possession as a real and tangible threat. The rituals, prayers, and ceremonies associated with exorcism, or spiritual cleansing, provide not only a sense of hope, but a way to reassert the individual's connection to their faith and identity. Geopolitically, belief in possession often aligns with the tensions of social and political upheaval. In times of war, oppression, or social unrest, belief in demonic possession has been used as a tool of control, manipulation, and even scapegoating. Throughout history, certain groups, particularly women, the poor, and marginalized communities, have been accused of being possessed, often as a means of suppressing their voices or undermining their power. During times of political strife, accusations of possession can serve as a way to deflect blame from societal issues and place the responsibility on supernatural forces. However, possession also has a darker side, one that can exploit the vulnerability of those experiencing mental illness or personal turmoil. In such cases, the belief in possession can exacerbate psychological distress, making it harder for individuals to seek appropriate medical or psychological treatment. The idea that an external force is to blame for one's problems can detract from the real need for support and intervention, whether it's therapy, medication, or social support. Despite these layers of complexity, people continue to believe in possession because it offers an answer to the mysteries of human experience. Whether it's a psychological need for control, the comfort of religious or spiritual explanations, or the societal forces that shape belief, the idea of possession remains firmly planted in the global consciousness. The question of why possession endures is deeply connected to the human need for understanding, for structure, and for meaning in a world that can often feel unpredictable and overwhelming. Beyond mainstream explanations, a host of unconventional and speculative theories seek to explain the phenomenon of possession. These theories, often dismissed by traditional science and religion alike, explore realms that challenge conventional understanding, stretching across quantum physics, interdimensional entities, and the manipulation of human consciousness. One of the more radical ideas suggests that what we perceive as demonic possession is not supernatural but extraterrestrial in nature. Some researchers in fringe circles propose that non-human intelligences, possibly entities from beyond our dimension, may be responsible for these encounters. They argue that cases of possession bear striking similarities to reports of alien abduction, loss of control, missing time, unexplained physical marks, and altered states of consciousness. Could these experiences be evidence of a force beyond human comprehension, using people as vessels for unknown purposes? Others believe possession is a sign of an unseen war between multidimensional beings, forces that operate outside of human perception but occasionally cross into our reality. According to this theory, what religions call demons might not be evil spirits at all, but rather entities from another plane of existence, attempting to communicate, influence, or even inhabit human hosts. Some proponents of this idea suggest that certain individuals, whether through trauma, genetic predisposition, or altered states of consciousness, may become more susceptible to these intrusions, acting as unwilling conduits for forces beyond their control. There is also speculation that possession could be linked to advanced but misunderstood aspects of human consciousness. Some theorists argue that what appears to be an external entity taking control may actually be a suppressed or alternate version of the self, a hidden layer of the mind that, under certain conditions, emerges in ways that mimic possession. In this view, possession could be an ancient psychological mechanism, a raw and primal force buried deep within the human psyche that only surfaces under extreme stress or altered states. Could possession be less about external invasion and more about unlocking something dormant within? Others take a technological approach, theorizing that possession may be the result of unknown forms of energy manipulation. Some believe that electromagnetic fields, radio waves, or other invisible forces could influence the human brain in ways that create the illusion of possession. In this line of thinking, ancient rituals and spiritual practices might have inadvertently tapped into frequencies or vibrations that alter perception, making people more receptive to unexplained phenomena. Could certain locations or conditions act as conduits for these unseen energies, influencing human behavior in ways that mimic traditional possession? A more occult interpretation suggests that possession is not necessarily the result of a malevolent entity, but rather a consequence of human interaction with forbidden knowledge. Throughout history, various mystical traditions have warned that delving too deeply into certain esoteric practices, whether through ritual, meditation, or altered states, can invite forces beyond one's control. Some claim that possession is the result of individuals unintentionally opening doors to realms that should remain closed, allowing something else to step in. These speculative theories, though dismissed by many, reflect a deeper search for understanding, an attempt to explain the unexplained through lenses beyond conventional religion and science. Whether one views possession as an ancient force, an interdimensional event, or a manifestation of the unconscious mind, the mystery remains as compelling as ever. Despite centuries of inquiry, debate, and investigation, possession remains an enigma. Theories have evolved, explanations have shifted, and science has made significant strides, yet lingering questions persist. What is it about possession that refuses to fade into history, continuing to grip the human imagination? What keeps this phenomenon alive in the public consciousness, resisting definitive explanation? One of the most unsettling aspects of possession is its unpredictability. It does not adhere to strict patterns, nor does it confine itself to one culture, belief system, or period in history. Cases surface in the most unexpected places, sometimes among those who previously had no belief in the supernatural or no history of mental illness. Why do certain individuals report such experiences while others do not? Is there a common thread, biological, psychological, or even environmental, that connects those who claim to have been possessed? Then there is the question of physical manifestations. Reports of unnatural strength, sudden linguistic abilities, and violent bodily contortions challenge conventional explanations. In some cases, medical evaluations fail to account for the severity of symptoms or the extreme shifts in personality. Are these anomalies simply the product of heightened mental states, or do they hint at an external force at work? Skeptics argue that everything can be explained through psychology and neurology, yet even the most rational minds must acknowledge that there are gaps in understanding, moments where certainty gives way to doubt. Another enduring mystery is why exorcism, in certain cases, appears to work. If possession is purely psychological or neurological, why do rituals, often rooted in religious traditions, sometimes lead to dramatic recoveries? Is it the power of belief, the effect of suggestion, or something beyond human comprehension? Despite advancements in medicine, the idea that ritual can drive out an unseen presence continues to be reported by individuals from all walks of life. Could it be that certain conditions respond to spiritual intervention in ways that science has yet to grasp? The role of perception also plays a significant part in keeping possession relevant in the modern era. Mass media, films, and literature continuously reinforce its imagery, embedding it in the collective consciousness. But is this merely cultural conditioning? Or does the persistence of these stories suggest a deeper truth, one that humanity is unwilling or unable to fully understand? Reports of possession have not diminished with time. If anything, they have adapted, taking new forms that reflect the anxieties of each era. Beyond cultural influence, there is also the question of why possession often coincides with times of personal, societal, or even global crisis. Moments of great upheaval, whether political instability, war, or widespread fear, have often been accompanied by surges in reported possessions. Is this correlation merely psychological, an externalization of trauma? Or does possession, in whatever form it takes, serve as an indicator of something more, an unseen force responding to the state of the world? With all the theories, explanations, and attempts to rationalize possession, the fundamental question remains: what if none of them are entirely correct? What if possession, in some capacity, exists in a way that defies categorization? Until definitive answers emerge, the phenomenon will continue to fuel debate, speculation, and unease. In the end, possession remains one of the most elusive and unsettling mysteries of the human experience. It stands at the intersection of science and superstition, psychology and the supernatural, history and speculation. For every theory that seeks to explain it, another question arises, keeping the phenomenon alive in the public imagination. For some, possession is a testament to the unseen forces that shape human existence. A reminder that the world is far more complex than what can be measured and studied. Whether viewed through the lens of religion, spirituality, or the paranormal, the idea that something beyond human comprehension can take hold of a person continues to inspire fear, reverence, and fascination. The persistence of exorcism rituals, spiritual cleansing practices, and protective beliefs across cultures suggests a universal recognition of forces beyond the physical world. Forces that, for better or worse, remain beyond full understanding. Others see possession as a reflection of the mind's untapped potential and its fragility. The human brain is capable of extraordinary feats, from creating alternate personalities to experiencing altered states of consciousness that defy conventional explanation. Could possession be a byproduct of trauma, dissociation, or an ancient survival mechanism buried deep within the psyche? If so, what does that say about the nature of identity, the boundaries of the self, and the ways in which the mind copes with the unknown? Then there are those who believe that possession is not supernatural at all, but part of a much larger and more complex web of control, manipulation, and hidden knowledge. From secret government experiments to the influence of unseen entities, the idea that possession could be artificially induced or intentionally suppressed is a compelling and troubling notion. If such forces exist, who understands them? Who controls them? And to what end? Despite all efforts to explain, categorize, or dismiss it, possession resists definitive answers. It remains a mystery that adapts to each era, shifting in form but never truly disappearing. Perhaps that is why it endures, because it forces humanity to confront the limits of its knowledge, to question the nature of reality, and to consider the possibility that not everything can be explained. Ultimately, whether possession is real, imagined, or something in between, it serves as a mirror reflecting humanity's deepest fears and greatest uncertainties. It is a phenomenon that challenges the boundaries of science, faith, and reason, a mystery that, for now, remains unsolved. Thanks for tuning in to the Conspiracy Files podcast. We're here with brand new episodes every Wednesday. If you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, don't forget to follow us and be sure to rate, review, and share your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. You can also reach out anytime by emailing us at contact@theconspiracyfilespodcast.com. Until next time, and remember, the truth is out there. If you enjoyed this episode and want to dive deeper into the world of conspiracy theories, consider subscribing for exclusive access to the material they don't want you to hear. As a subscriber, you'll get banned episodes, episodes deemed too controversial for mainstream platforms, members-only bonus episodes, not available anywhere else, extended director's cut versions of your favorite episodes, early access to new content before it's released to the public, and much more. Thank you for your support. The link is in the description below. Join now.